Hello and welcome to Mideast Focus. I'm Tal Heinrich. Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, is upon us, and today we'll hear about the security preparations in Saudi Arabia, as well as the significance of this period for Muslims around the world. But first, let's start with this week's headlines from the region.
Japanese people don't know about the real in Japan because they don't know about all of things in the refugee camp.
The international community is extremely frustrated with the obstruction of UN peacekeeping operations that has gone on for too long.
C'est en faisant preuve de persévérance, de méthode dans la mise en place de ces actions que nous dégagerons une solution efficace et pérenne à la crise.
The world's biggest annual gathering of people is getting going in Mecca. After last year's deadliest Hajj disaster in history, Saudi Arabia is getting ready to absorb millions of Muslims taking the 5-day pilgrimage. I24 News' David Gomba tells us about the preparations.
The Hajj, a pilgrimage under high surveillance. It is one of the biggest religious gatherings in the world. Last year, more than 2 million Muslims from all origins went to Mecca for the Hajj. An extremely important pilgrimage for the believers. It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. For the Saudi authorities who organize the pilgrimage, it is a real security and logistics headache, an extremely difficult challenge and a mission to make sure that this spiritual gathering happens under the best possible conditions. If the Hajj has impressed with stunning images of the crowd turning around the Kaaba, the recent pilgrimages have made headlines for their deadly incidents. 2015 was marked by a massive stampede incident, the deadliest in history. Overall, more than 1,500 people died. 2 weeks before that, a crane fell, killing 107 people. In 2006, the annual Hajj was already stained by terrible incidents. First, a hotel collapsed, killing 76 people. Then, a few days later, a stampede during the stoning ritual of Mina killed 364 people. And this kind of deadly incident seems to be common. To limit the stampede risks, some rituals have been adapted and have become more symbolic. The Mina stoning is now done according to ranks, and it is no longer necessary to actually touch the Kaaba. This year, the Saudi authorities announced that they took further drastic steps. To make sure that everything goes smoothly with the 2 million pilgrims who come from 160 different countries, the government has organized a significant police presence. 100,000 members of security forces, thousands of crowd control vehicles, and more than 5,000 cameras have been set up in the streets of Mecca and Medina. Emergency plans for 13 different scenarios have also been developed. A new high-tech innovation was even introduced this year. Electronic bracelets equipped with GPS have been distributed to limit the number of disappearances and to inform pilgrims in real time. Terrorism is also a major threat to the Hajj. Whether it is the Islamic State or another Shiite or Sunni terror organization, Saudi Arabia has been in a state of permanent alert. The authorities have not forgotten the terror attack on July 5th of last year in the sacred city of Medina, which resulted in the death of 4 security agents. An additional downside to this year's Hajj is the very noticeable absence of Iran. Still on bad terms with the Wahhabi kingdom, Iran has decided not to send its citizens to the annual Hajj this year. Because of that decision, 400,000 pilgrims will have to give up on one of Islam's most sacred commandments.
We are now in the north of Israel, in the Arab city of Baqa al-Gharbiya, where you can definitely feel the holiday and the holiday spirit, but this year, rivalries and conspiracies are accompanying this holiday atmosphere. And we're joined by local journalist Muhammad Watad to hear all about this. Muhammad, شكرا جزيلا لتكون معنا في البرنامج اليوم. So although we heard about the Saudi preparations, it seems that not everybody in the Muslim world is satisfied with the Saudi domination of their religious places and their hospitality. Where is the criticism coming from?
We hear criticisms coming from Iran and the entire Shiite side, especially during the preparations for the Hajj period. It was historically given to Saudi Arabia to manage and host as part of its role in the Muslim world. On the national level, a lot of criticism is being pointed at the Saudi government for many things related to their role as leaders in the Middle East area. All Muslim travels to Saudi Arabia during the Hajj. But I'm sure that even if the Kaaba wasn't in Saudi Arabia, it would still receive all the respect or the status it does now in the Muslim world.
What kind of such criticism do we hear?
If we're talking about the main criticisms coming from Tehran, the background is a political fight between Saudi Arabia and Iran over their influence in the region, and particularly after this period of the Arab Spring, in which a religious clash has spread even further. Especially during the Hajj, the status of Iran has strengthened, and that is evident in the announcements coming out of Riyadh condemning Iran and in Iran's reply to the condemnation, which reflects the type of clash between the two at its core. The basis of the conflict lies in the fact that Iran is a representative of the Shiite Muslims and Saudi Arabia a representative of the Sunni Muslims. We're always cautious when it concerns the Shiite and the Farsi community of Iran. Iran's dominance is being felt in Syria, in Iraq, in Lebanon with Hezbollah. This clash at this point is not caused by a political state, but as a result of a certain deterioration of the Saudi dominance in the Arab world and in the Persian Gulf. In parallel, there's a strengthening of the Iranian foothold in the Gulf and of the Turkish role in the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia at a certain point started to seek an alliance with Turkey in order to resist the increasing Iranian dominance in the Middle East.
Last year during Hajj, we have witnessed a security breakdown. How can the Saudis avoid a repeat?
Saudi Arabia, throughout the entire year, works on preparing the infrastructure in the best way, especially in Mecca. Saudi Arabia does not expect a disaster, but accidents can always happen. If we speak about the security issue, Saudi Arabia is under a constant emergency alert. It does not expect a revolution. Historically speaking, there has always been a clash with Iran and the Shiites. Religious clashes that sometimes have reached bloodshed. Recently, Saudi Arabia has been under threat because of its involvement in the war in Yemen. I think that Saudi Arabia accomplished to cross the stage successfully. But the big question now is, how will Saudi Arabia cope with the Iranians and the Shiites during the Hajj period? It is not only about Iran, but also concerns all the Shiites supporting it.
Muslims are arriving to Mecca this week from all over the world from rival countries or rival branches of Islam. Does this turn the Hajj into a more meaningful experience?
Every Hajj in history has been influenced by the circumstances of the region. 3 years ago, it was special in light of the Arab Spring victories. Then, after every period has its own surprises. Every country has its own problems. There are wars in Iraq and Syria and in Lebanon and West Africa. But there's a separation between the governments, leaders, and the people. The people want a pan-Arab and pan-Islamic unity, on the contrary of the leaders' will. The question remains, which leader will be forced to give up his seat next year? One example is the failed coup attempt in Turkey, and now there are rumors that Arab governments were involved in it. This can also affect other Arab leaders who are unstable.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا لكم.
We just arrived at the Huda Mosque in Baqal Gharbiya to meet with Sheikh Khairi Iskandar. Sheikh, thank you so much for hosting us here. شكرا جزيلا لاستضافتنا هنا.
أهلا وسهلا.
What is exactly the Hajj ritual?
مناسك الحج الشرح طبعا يطول عنها.
The Hajj customs and traditions were given to us by God Almighty. We are told to surround the Kaaba in circles without questioning the reasoning behind the tradition. However, there is a deep logic and reasoning behind it. The earth spinning along the universe, with the stars, moon and sun, there is a specific dynamic for this. We spin around the Kaaba with the same dynamics of the universe. This is an amazing sight, the unification of creation by Almighty God. And we symbolize this creation and unity through the Hajj customs. We leave our countries and head to the Hajj, to the house of God. We also wear our famous white clothing, which we also keep in mind that we will wear someday after we are no longer alive, and we give ourselves to God. Then starts the journey from Medina to Mecca, just like the period of the Prophet Muhammad. This is, of course, a very short description of all the Hajj customs that we do for God. The purpose behind it is to unite with God and to receive His praise, and it benefits us from several perspectives. It benefits us here and now, and also on Judgment Day. Now we see this benefit in our work and financially on earth. In the altar life, benefits are things that you cannot witness now. But like the Prophet and God have said, all the Muslims eventually unite in one place.
On the personal level, you did a Hajj some years ago. How significant is this pilgrimage? What does it give to you?
I waited with patience until I reached the age of 30, so I can go and fulfill the Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. I felt strongly about being able to be part of this, not only to do the Hajj, which is one of the Islam's foundations, but also to meet all these Muslim people.
We're used to see religious separation between men and women in Islam. So how come during the Hajj, men and women pray together and make tawaf, the circles, together?
Only in this area, the Islamic Sharia has enabled us, both men and women, to be in the same place. This is because all of us think about the same thing at the same time. And that is only the Hajj and God. Our attention does not waver. Also, there is only one holy place, which is the Kaaba. And God told us to be there at the same time and to do the Hajj. So in this case, it is accepted for men and women to do the same. Whether it's the Tawaf circles or the Safa and Marwa itinerary of the black stone. The Sharia allows it in this case.
Who decides who goes to the Hajj in each country? Is it open for everyone?
Since Saudi Arabia is not able to absorb and host all the Muslims in the world, who constitute a third of the world's population, billions of people cannot convene in one place. So they made up a quota of around 1,000 people for every 1 million. We, the Palestinians, were prevented from doing the Hajj for a long time. So now we get to enjoy a special arrangement and we get a bigger quota. Each year, 4,500 people can go. It also depends upon the age requirements, which are enforced each year.
Sheikh Hari Iskandar, shukran jazilan lak. At the end of the Hajj, Muslims throughout the world celebrate the holiday of Eid al-Adha, which is usually a pretty sweet celebration, and candy stores around the city are already presenting their goods. Now, here's a small, sweet taste of Middle Eastern culture from the other side of the world, Australia.
Sydney's singing and dancing bearded bakers are striking a chord with people's taste buds, serving up the classic Middle Eastern dessert, knafe. Fadi, Mazan, Michelle, and Ralph, along with the founder and creative director of the Knafe Bakery, Amir Al-Issa, gather in a converted shipping container at various locations 4 days a week, offering the latest in pop-up restaurants. The recipe Al-Issa uses for his knafe was created by his mother and was so popular in the Al-Issa family restaurant that he and a band of merry brothers turned it into street food.
It's got a crunchy coating, an oozing, creamy, cheesy center. We finished it with pistachios and a drizzle of sugar syrup. So from a textures and flavor perspective, it's everything that you look for in a dish.
Eaten all over the Middle East, the dessert is a new experience for a lot of Sydney locals, but it isn't aimed at only those with a sweet tooth. Here, it's about the experience.
We attract a wide range of demographics for a wide range of reasons. We get the foodies that love food, the hipsters that hear about the latest craze. We get the designers that hear about transformed shipping containers. So a big part of our success is that we attract a wide range of audience for many different reasons.
Customers are not only out for the taste, it's also the fun atmosphere that the bakers provide and the glimpse into Middle Eastern culture.
It's good food along with good vibes, so it's an excellent overall experience. And I'm someone who's from the Middle East, and I've had this in the past as well. But the overall vibe here, and everyone seems to be having fun, which kind of like really accentuates the whole thing.
Alisa launched another pop-up knafa bakery in Melbourne several months ago, but his first step into global expansion will be New York City.
We sell an experience rather than a product, and I guess that's what separates us from a lot of other food vendors.
And that is all from Mideast Focus for today. Next week, we'll be back with more stories from the region. In the meanwhile, we would like to wish our viewers celebrating the holiday a very peaceful and happy holiday. See you again soon.